The cold wind whipped across the busy city street as an old man stood at the entrance of a grand hotel, clutching his worn-out jacket closer to his frail body. His hands trembled not just from the biting air but from the weight of something far heavier, hope. His eyes, clouded with age yet still burning with longing, scanned the golden-lit doorway where laughter, music, and celebration spilled into the night. Inside, his only son was celebrating his engagement to a beautiful woman from a wealthy family. He hadn't been invited. He hadn't been acknowledged for years. But tonight, he couldn't stay away. Tonight, he wanted to look into his son's eyes and whisper the words he had been carrying in his heart for so long, "I'm your father." Before we dive deeper into this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue to spread stories that remind the world of compassion and humanity. The old man's name was Samuel. His life had once been full of promise, a devoted husband, a hard-working carpenter, and a proud father. But life has its cruel turns. After his wife passed away when their son Daniel was just 10, Samuel drowned in grief. He lost focus, lost work, and for a few years, lost himself to drinking as a way to numb the pain. He had no one to guide him out of the darkness, and in that fog, Daniel was taken away by social services and placed in the care of relatives who despised Samuel's weakness. By the time Samuel managed to rebuild his life, becoming sober and steady again, his son was gone. The boy grew up believing his father had abandoned him, and nothing Samuel did could undo the scars of those years apart. But Samuel never stopped following Daniel's life from afar. He knew of his education, his achievements, his struggles, and his rise. He had never stopped hoping for a day they might reconcile. Tonight seemed like his only chance. He had heard that Daniel was marrying into wealth, into a family that could give him everything Samuel never could. And while Samuel was proud, he was terrified too. Would his son ever accept him back? Summoning his courage, Samuel stepped through the hotel doors. The brilliance inside nearly blinded him, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, guests in glamorous gowns and tailored suits. He felt like an intruder among them, a shadow from another world. Still, he walked with hesitant steps, searching for Daniel. That's when she appeared, the bride-to-be. Her name was Victoria. She was breathtaking in her sparkling dress, but her beauty was laced with pride, with a sharpness in her eyes that made Samuel's heart sink. When Samuel tried to approach her, his voice breaking as he explained he was Daniel's father, her laughter rang out, cold, merciless, slicing through the air like a blade. She mocked his shabby clothes, his calloused hands, and his trembling voice. "You? Daniel's father," she sneered loudly enough for guests nearby to turn and stare. "Don't embarrass yourself, old man. Daniel's real family is here tonight. People of class, not beggars who walk in from the street." Her words struck Samuel harder than any blow. The humiliation burned deep. He tried to protest, tears welling in his eyes, whispering again and again, "I'm his father, please, I am his father." But Victoria waved security over, demanding that the fraud be removed. The sight of the old man pleading, clutching his chest, barely able to stand, became an ugly spectacle for the guests. Samuel felt his world collapse as he was shoved toward the exit. His heart pounded, not just from sorrow but from pain, years of longing and rejection swelling all at once. He collapsed just outside the hotel, the night air filling his lungs as he sobbed. He thought it was the end. He thought he had lost Daniel forever. But fate had its way of intervening. Inside, Daniel had noticed the commotion. He rushed to the entrance, pushing through the crowd until his eyes fell on the frail figure lying on the ground. His heart stopped. Though the years had changed his father's face, Daniel knew. He had seen that face in old photographs, in childhood memories he tried to bury but never could. "Dad?" Daniel whispered, his voice shaking. He knelt beside Samuel, holding his trembling hand. And in that moment, everything Samuel had feared dissolved into one undeniable truth: his son still recognized him. The hotel lobby fell into silence as Daniel lifted his father gently, ignoring the stares, ignoring Victoria's protests. He held Samuel close, his own tears falling freely. "Why didn't you come sooner?" Daniel cried, his voice cracking with the pain of lost years. Samuel could barely speak, but through his tears he whispered, "I tried, son. I never stopped loving you. I never stopped being your father." Those words, raw and trembling, broke Daniel's heart open. Victoria, humiliated that her fiancé was embracing the man she had insulted, tried to intervene. She spat harsh words about image, reputation, and dignity. But Daniel silenced her with a fury no one had seen before. "Dignity?" he shouted. "You humiliated the man who gave me life. You mocked the hands that worked to build everything he could for me, even when life broke him. If you cannot respect him, then you cannot respect me." The crowd gasped, and Victoria's face twisted with shock as Daniel announced that the engagement was off, right there in front of everyone. From that day, Daniel turned his back on a life of superficial grandeur and chose something richer: the chance to rebuild a bond with his father. It wasn't easy. There were years of hurt to unravel, tears to shed, and forgiveness to give. But slowly, beautifully, father and son began to heal. Samuel moved into Daniel's modest home, and for the first time in decades, he no longer ate alone. They shared dinners, memories, laughter, and the kind of love that had been waiting patiently for far too long. Samuel lived to see his son happy again, not with wealth or status, but with someone who loved Daniel for his heart, not his bank account. Daniel married a woman who welcomed Samuel as family and honored the man who had once been cast aside. And when Samuel eventually passed away, he did so with a smile, knowing his son had finally forgiven him and loved him until the end. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your engagement helps us bring more inspiring stories to people who need hope. And before we end, we have a special request. Please comment below, what would you do if you were in Daniel's place? Your thoughts may inspire someone else today.